This is the Laboratory and Radiation Safety 01 course for the PhD program, and the credit is just one credit. I am Dr. Manish Dikshit, currently working in Department of Nuclear Medicine at SGPGI. So this is our facility is kind of production of radionuclide. We have a cyclotron here, and we do the lot of chemistry and in vitro and in vivo biological studies of the labeled radio tracers for different biomedical imaging, basically on the prostate, Alzheimer, or neurodegenerative diseases. So this coursework is span in next 5 days, and I have divided. I think you must have the coursework content with you. If anyone missed it, let me know. And at the end, there is a phone number is mentioned. You can note it down, and you can call me if you have any query, question related to this topic in future also. So, uh, beginning, we start with the next. Yes. So, every day we met at 3 to 5 p.m. It may be less or more. Today is January 18, so we will work basically today the lab safety principle and effects part 1, and tomorrow is again the part 2 of it. And the third day we try to understand how to manage the laboratory equipment, how to take of them care, and how to do the safely work in handling those electrical mechanical equipments. From January 21 and 22 is the lectures by Dr. Subhas Kheruka. He is a medical physicist in our department, and he has more than 33 years experience in radiation physics. So he will tell for the fundamental of basic radiation physics, what the regulation says, and how we protect while working in during the radiation or radioactive laboratories. So I can start from today. What do you mean by the general laboratory safety? What does it mean, and how important it is? Safety, whenever we say the safety means we have to know the non-safety parameters first. Then we know the what is safety. And in laboratory, each and every laboratory has lot of non-safety concerns are always lying in front of you. We have to work to avoid them and in accordance with the certain rules and regulations which are prescribed or implement or guided by the different regulatory agencies from our experience and knowledge, and also from the various accidents or mishappenings happened in different laboratory scenario in different area of work, whether it's chemical laboratory, is a biological laboratory, it a viral laboratory, or in general laboratory where in class 10, 12, BSc, lot of laboratories I think you work people, and we are on that scenario. So the laboratory safety program is fundamental of establishing any laboratory, because laboratories are established or designed in such a manner that they adhere the rules and regulation implemented by the safety regulatory authorities of a specific country, or you can say the institute. The fundamental principle is adherence to appropriate design criteria when designing and construction a laboratory facility. Means whenever we have to design a laboratory or we have to start a laboratory work, we have to think that is all laboratory are complying the laws, regulations, and safety features of being a certain laboratory. Is the laboratory have facility to decommission the laboratory? Suppose if you want to remove something from your laboratory, do you they have the facility how to handle those situations also. Identification and communication the responsibility to laboratory supervisor and worker. Second is that okay, if we have the facility, do the worker who are working there have the knowledge of the radiation or laboratory safety? Do they know what are the rules, regulations are there during their working environment? Are they safe? When you know the rules or when you know the principle of rules, then you can follow it. If you don't know the rule, you can't follow it. It's impossible. If you know that red light is for stopping the vehicle, then you can stop. You know the green signal is for go ahead, yellow for be alert, because you know, because that was taught to you. But if you don't know the safety rules, you never follow it because you don't know the principles. So all these principles are professionally documented, elaborated, and explained by either your seniors or your lab managers or anyone who has the authority to implement those ones. So provision for information and labeling means guidance should be handed or narrated to each and every worker who is working in the laboratory environment. That comes the training and education of laboratory workers. So all things which are the training is important, education is important to explain the each and every aspects of laboratory safety and precautions. Second thing is that uh, when we use the work in the laboratory, there is certain rule that we have to protect ourselves by using some kind of material, and those materials are termed as personal protective equipment, or we can say PPE. Lab coats come into that, gloves come into that, shields come into that, goggles come into that. And if you are working in a biological lab or chemical lab, there are certain kind of face masks are there that comes under those category. So you, our main feature is that use of appropriate laboratory safety equipment, which I already explained you. Then provision of properly returning the hazards involved in any chemical, equipments, reagents, and experiments, which was first be carefully read, explained those who are new to your lab, and if you are not new but you are doing something for first time, you should clearly read and write the safety features of the that specific experiment, reagents, or chemicals. Then if you are working, used it, how to get it out from your lab. That is the proper disposal of the hazardous waste is also a important feature. Then if there is a something happening, any accident happen, how we are deal with those accident or mishappening, that is also a part of laboratory safety. That all comes with the documentation. We need to have document each and every guidelines for obtaining the experiment done, commissioning and decommissioning both. And also if there is mishappening happen, how we are going to deal with it. Then important is that, okay, everything we are doing, are we are the only person, but there is a need to audit that whether we did or doing or performing the experiment as per the guidelines of for the safety and precaution. So what is laboratory? So I think everybody know laboratory is a small or is a big workplace which sometimes deal with the small chemical, biological hazards or radioactive substances which we use for our scientific research, experimental or analysis. So place where all these things happens we termed as a laboratory. And the individual, whether it's faculty, staff, student, technical member who work or conduct those activities are termed as a laboratory worker. And those laboratory workers are comes under the strict guidance or guidance of laboratory supervisor or your principal investigator. And it's their responsibility that you should follow the safety rules of your specified laboratory. So what is laboratory supervisor or investigator? Any individual who has charge of laboratory worker or visitor, which made under the occupational health and services guidelines and have the provision to understand, teach, taught and educate those people who are working with him as a laboratory worker and need to time training and monitoring of those workers. So why does it matter? Why safety is important or why we know the have to do? So safe working have multiple features. It protects us or other lab workers. It make things more cleaner. Any team or people visiting your lab have feeling of safe environment when they are inverting, and also that increases your efficiency in your work. So safety or lab safety is integratedly protect us from different scenario, and it also enhances our work culture. So what does the law say? Because everything comes under certain kind of guidelines, and those guidelines are termed as law. So in India, first time in 1974, the health safety at work law started, and that basically predominate or narrated that you must work in a safe environment, must not endanger others, and must not misuse the safety of equipment. That means you work safe, keep others safe, and keep your equipment or laboratory also safe. So yeah, there is a certain, when there is law also, then there is a penalty who actually do against the law. So there is a penalty up to 2 years or whatever you can say. So what does law say is the second slide. The Management of Health and Safety at Work regulation came into 1999, which also explain all these things, and also it controls the hazardous substances, which under what condition those can be used in laboratory, their transportation. So whenever you have any chemical or bioreagent, there is some specific marking is there, is volatile, hazardous, biocontagious, carcinogenic. Those labels are come to effect in 1999 and further force into in 2004. So with this, understanding these controlled labels or informative labels, we assess the risk involvement with handling those chemicals. So, how to do the risk assessment? First, determine the hazards which we understand by the labeling attached to it, whether it's flammable, it's a lacrimatory, is a biological contaminants, or it's a perforation to the skin, inhaler property, all those comes with their a label, hazards label, and according to that, we evaluate its risk. So, with the relevant data, you can assess that how to handle those consumables in your experiment. And after that, you can understand if something happened while using those consumable, how to control it. So, using the hazards label, you link it the associated risk, and according to that, you address your handling of the consumable. And if something happen, that also controlled by you using the label. So in that case, with all these three controls, you can document it assessment and you do the experiment. I think with this you understand what the hazards means, what is the risk, what is the available data, what is control, and how to document. And if your all things are agree, then your supervisor will agree that okay, go ahead, perform this experiment. Because with this you understand all the positive and negative association with those consumables or experiment you are going to be performed. Okay, so for all this, it is important that every laboratory worker first get a inside training about what hazards mean, what are the label significance of those hazards, what are the risk involved with those hazards, and all this comes with the uh, pre anything which you are purchasing from a company that gives you the MSDS file, which states everything. So, what are the control measures? How we are controlling? So, the control measures are basically for using a less risk substances. Means in that case, you control the risk associated with that consumable. And if suppose that consumable is very dangerous or you think that it is not appropriate for you, you can find alternative solution for that. Okay, so couple of time you will find that okay, A is more carcinogenic, then we can use the B, because by understanding the material safety data, you understand that okay, this is not for me, or we can avoid using this one instead of this. This reagent is more greener or more safe to handle. Another thing control measure is to avoid the okay, after assessing the your consumables risk and suitability. So in that case, you yourself protect from the risk associated while using those consumables. So for that, it is important that your surrounding where you are working, it's working as per the standards of the specified by the company or as demand for that thing. So in control measure, important is safe system of work. That means suppose your hood is not working and you are working with some thing which is lacrimatory or which is gas evolving, that then you are inhaling that congested thing during your entire process, and as well as your whole laboratory area is filled with the fumes of that. So very important that the system where you are working is safe and working properly. By uh, using the shielding, or you can say the enclosed area, you and working fastly, you can reduce the exposure time, keep the distance as much as possible from the experiment area. That will reduce your immediate exposure. And also if we want to design experiment, we can think that how lowest reagents and chemicals volumes we can use in order to avoid our personal exposure to that risk. And lastly, we have to be within our personal protective equipment, such as gloves, lab coat, if an eye glove, goggles, and if we are working with any fumigating system, which which fumes is not good for health, and we have to be a filter mask over our face. So wearing the cloth and protective wear identify in your risk assessment. Sometime when we are working in a radiation lab, we used to wear more than gloves, two pair of gloves on single hand in order to remove it when upper one got contaminated. So second gloves protect it us from perforating the radiation liquid inside the second gloves. So and also in if you go in a MRI or CT lab, you will find people are wearing the lead apron. That is the extra protective equipment which protect them from radiation. So we can wear the clothing or protective wear while by identifying your risk assessment. Suppose if you are working in a biological lab, then I think you just need a single. People are generally wearing a lab coat, gloves, and a goggle. But sometime in chemistry lab, when people are using, they use gloves and also some specially designed goggles which totally cover the or eyesight area from front and from the side also. So on the basis of need and risk, or PP demand is appropriate. Laboratory coat, I say laboratory coats must be kept faster. Means most of the time we will find that people are so hurry that they forget to knot the button of the front laboratory coat. That is not recommended. You must tighten it so it will not loose and flying here and there. Similarly, in laboratory, most of laboratory, we recommend or guidelines recommend that you should not wear sandal and open shoes. Most of time, people are allowed to wear covered shoes, or you can say the canvas or sport shoes, which are more comfortable and non-skiddy also. Most of time we find that girls, for example, if they come into Monday and say, oh, today I have a hair wash and I did not get it dry, so I keep it open. That is not recommended. Whenever you entered in your lab, hair should be tightened properly. It will not fall off. So, so now the protecting gloves, the first and important, most of time you will find that people are wearing gloves. And nowadays the gloves is very important, and also the mask. There are different kind of protecting gloves are there: latex, nitrile. Even now in nowadays, hospital you will find this white polythene type of gloves are also available because of the scarcity of nitrile gloves. So there are different kinds of protective gloves are there. Excuse me, sorry about it. So there are different kind of gloves are there. So we use gloves as per our need. So use of correct one is our responsibility, and we can only use the appropriate gloves when we know the property of gloves. What does nitrile gloves means? What does latex gloves means? What does thermal gloves means and why they need? So remember that you need to select chemical protected gloves according to the material and or substance with which you will be working. For example, for latex gloves, if you are using latex gloves and you are using working with the DCM or chloroform, and if it entered or spill in your hand, it entered in your skin and then your itching started. So that means those kind of gloves are not good for working with those kind of chlorinated reagent. For water, it's fine. For a stone, if you're working with a stone or ethanol, those gloves are not good. So remove your glove before using instrument, telephone, and leaving the laboratory. That means whenever you are off from your work, you must remove the gloves. Otherwise, any contamination happen in your work which is not visible get transmitted into those areas, knowingly or unknowingly. For example, if you are working in a radiation lab, radiation is no sign, means no physical sign. So if you have the contamination on the gloves and you picked up the phone, then it also transfer there. And a person who is not working in an area or not working with you and come and pick up the phone, that means again he himself get contaminated with that radiation without knowing that he was contaminated. So in this way, contamination and decontamination without any reason he got contaminated. So another thing is important, how to have the laboratory hygiene. So fundamentally everybody knows it. that we should not eat, drink, or smoke in laboratory. But yeah, in India, it's very difficult to get it. Never eat and drink. Yes, smoking, I know we are not working in lab, but eating and drinking is more or less frequent. But yeah, lot of labs following these guidelines too. Never apply cosmetics. This is the rule. Never touch your face, mouth, or ears while working. Never shuck pen or chew pencil while you are in the lab. And always wash your hand before you leave the area, especially before you are having some meals. So, what are the general hazards in a laboratory? In very fundamental is fire. It may be from the electrical shock at burnout, electrical equipment damaging, or mishandling of any chemical or equipment. Next is a breakage of glassware that directly hurt us or worker. Sharps is the one of the major issue of accident, and this accident most of time happen when we are trying to put back cap over the shot. So my suggestion or ESA or international guideline also say never recap the syringe. Spillage is another thing. Uh, it is a kind of maybe accident. Sometimes we have water spillage or reagent spillage or any biocontent spillage. And in radiation lab, there is a radioactive spillage that is more dangerous than a wet laboratory or biological laboratory exit spillage. So spillage is of different kind. It may be a liquid, it may be a solid, it may be a gas form. Suppose a person using ammonia gas, for example, for a specific reason, and there is a leakage. That is also a spillage. It's a gas leakage that is more dangerous than liquid leakage. And if it liquid, for example, is leakage and it's lacrimetry in nature, then it's also dangerous. And radiation leakage means whenever you have spilled a radioactive material somewhere on the surface or in your working area. So every spillage has some guidelines how to clean up and how to avoid those ones. So as already the pressure equipment or gas cylinder, for example, there is a gas regulator leakage. One time it happens in our laboratory. We have a couple of gases, and one of the gas is chlorine, and there is a leakage in the chlorine gas cylinder through regulator, and it is very minor. People are not identify because that was covered inside a fumed cabinet, so that's why the fume is not coming out of it. But slowly it degraded the total regulator plastic body, and all of a sudden uh, all pressure gas comes out. And when worker entered in the morning in the gas room, it its eyes started itching. And after a couple of days later, when we inspect it, we found that the total regulator is corroded, damaged, and there is no gas left. Luckily, that room is well ventilated, so we saved the major accident. So extremes of heat and cold, I think you know there is a heat burn also there and cold burn also there. Heat burn is very frequent. You can observe at home also, at here also. When we use or when you hold up anything with high temperature, you got burned. But cold is also burn or skin. For example, people are working in liquid nitrogen or dry ice. They must be worked with very proper handling because that is more dangerous than the heat burn. So all over the world, we listen or we document and we know that chemicals are more hazardous, and lot of chemicals are very toxic and very flammable also. And most of time we are afraid of chemicals also, and that is true because those are very dangerous when not handled in a proper manner. For example, sodium. If you have a sodium and you are having water close by, then it catches fire. Biological hazards, which is hidden hazards, people who are working in biological lab, they work with lot of tissue, blood, pathogens, and those are bio-living things. So that those things enter our body very frequently, and that hazards comes very late. For chemical hazards, it's immediate, fast. You know what happening just now. But for biological hazard, it will take time to your body respond. So, in my opinion, biological hazards is more dangerous than chemical hazards because to know the cause of those symptoms or risk health comes very late, and we are not well documented from where it is. Second and lastly, the radiation hazards. Uh, you know, a lot of incidents world over, Fukushima or Brockner Chernobyl leakage are there. Those are the worst accident happen in terms of radiation industry. But couple of time it happens to us also because we are working in a radiation lab. So there is a leakage in the sometime during working. So we have the radiation detector, so that will start blinking that okay, get it out from lab. So that's why when you know the rule hazards, you know how to protect it. So we know the radiation is dangerous and what kind and what is the limit. So we have the equipment which gives us alarm that okay, now it's time for think about it. So we just leave the lab. As I already say, avoiding fire is one of the major challenge in the chemical industry or industry which deals with the industry or any laboratory which deals with the chemicals. So first and thumb rule is identify the chemical, whether it's a flammable, non-flammable, arsenic, lacrimatory, whatever. If it is flammable substance, it must be kept inside the non-flammable cabinet. Apart from that, regulatory body says use minimum quantity. Quantity as less as possible. Storage should be at appropriate cabinet, and temperature and cooling should be maintained because a lot of time few chemical with the temperature they explode or they generate internal pressure inside the where they kept, so that also have to be managed. So In order to minimize the fire damage, we have a exit entry point where we have to properly mark that, okay, in case of fire, this is the access point and these are the extinguishers they are there, which can control that small amount of fire if happen. If it is big happen, then just leave it. So fire safety is important only when we are working in the lab. So for fire safety, most of area in our SGPGI, we have fire alarm installed and those are regularly monitored by the respective department. So with the alarm, they understand which area have the fire and they immediately respond. So if you are a member of staff, you must attend fire training annually. This is the recommendation, and that's why our institute also time to time do fire safety training to uh, possible employers or people working in that respective department. Next is the glassware. I already say the broken glassware. This is the biggest culprit when people will get hurt. So if you have any glassware broken, there is a special kind of bucket or boxes are there in which we have to just dump them and never use the any glassware which have some sharp edges because that are the prosperous object from where you can get a wound. So never use glassware under pressure and vacuum unless it was designed for the job. For example, test tube or you can slide or anything. Those glasses are not designed for high tensile strength. So we should not use those things as a for vacuum generation or other thing. So and it should be work with the proper shielding. For example, having a goggles on your face. So dispose of chipped or broken glassware. Is it risk to you and other also? That's I already tell you. Always dispose of broken glass in a glass bin or sharp bin in order to avoid any accident from them. Now spillage. So spillage, suppose if it's a water spillage or any solvent spillage, then you can clean up with the help of you or certain guidelines. So, but when there is a biological spillage, people first used to spray out the disinfectant just to disinfect the area and then do the general cleaning. But for radiation spillage, if it is minor spillage, then we mark the area and do the survey with the help of some radiation survey meter and assess the amount of radioactivity there in that area. And if it is advisable by the radiation safety officer that okay, go ahead and clean it, then we go out. Otherwise, we leave it as per the half-life of the radioisotope and then do cleaning on the next day in order to avoid the exposure during the cleaning of those areas. So clear up spillage promptly as soon as you find it, clear it. But that is not for radiation. You will already have determined how to do this part of your risk and assessment. Same thing. If it is spillage is there, is spillage is very dangerous. You have to clean up as per the risk assessment of that and dispose of any hazardous material as toxic waste. So we have to train the worker also in order to avoid the spillage. And fundamental principle is that if we work in a clean and organized manner, these kind of accident can be avoided. But if we are messy, haphazardly working, then this is very frequent. Same thing the gas cylinder. The gas cylinders are very heavy and they are straight long. So in most of time we find that the cylinders are lying straight in a any corner of the your laboratory. But the recommendation is that they should be tightly against the wall with a holder embedded into the wall in order not to fall off. And if cylinder is not tied to the wall against the wall, then there is more chances that it may fall off. And if it is fall off, then it's more dangerous than anything because it's very heavy, and if it's fall off on anything, it will damage the whole thing. And also handling of cylinder, suppose is a gas cylinder. So in that case also you have to use with the proper training. So minimizing the numbers in a laboratory, again the same thing. In lab, you use those chemical or purchase those chemicals or reagents or consumable which you need it. Don't dump it. You are not generating a godown. It's your lab. So if lab is clean, clear, accidents or safety is more with less accidents. If your lab is filled with lot of consumable boxes, then there is chances of accident is more. Cylinders are heavy and can do I already told, ensure that they are changed when in use. Move only with a cylinder trolley. Use regulator and control equipment suitable for the gas concern. I already told you that. Okay, that cylinder is fine, but regulator is leaking and we have a good messed cylinder and we have a minor accident in all that. Cylinder the consequence if your cylinder leaks. This is the example which I explained you. Now come to the cryogenics. So cryogenics are, you know, uh, either liquid gases. Most of time in biological gases lab we use liquid nitrogen for preservation, and for some time we are using for reaction work also. And those are extremely cold, -80, -90, -50, and if we spill on it or us, it will cause severe burn to us, and their vapor is also very dangerous. Okay, so if you need to take cryogen in a lift, there are a special procedure to follow. Speak to your supervisor or lab manager about it, how to handle and how to transfer from big container to smaller container, or how to use in your laboratory. So there is a need for a special kind of training for handling that these cryogenics. Now come to the electrical equipments. You know the all electrical equipments, electricity is very useful nowadays, and it's very useful, and we cannot live without it. But electricity is also associated with lot of danger or accidents when we are not using it properly. So first of all, before start of any experiment, there is need that we can check that whether our electrical equipment is well in order. That means it properly intact all the current line wire. So use of visual inspection is mandatory, and whether it is properly hooked up or not. So never use the defective equipment because that will spoil your equipment also and your lab also and your total experiment also. So another thing is that general tightness means I already told you that if your area is clean, chances of accident is less. So uh, most of time we try to work in a very clean environment, and in our institute also I found that people are working in that respect also. But if you go in other labs or basically in the chemistry lab or where the chemicals are there, those labs are little dirty, even good laboratory labs also, because people say okay we will do it later, currently we will do this one. So keeping our workplace tidy clean will avoid the accidents, and also our performance enhances. So clear up waste, whatever you don't need, just get it out, wash it, throw it, whatever you want, but make your working area clean and tidy in order to avoid the accidents. And that is for safety of all. First is yourself, and then your coworker, and then your lab. So laboratory equipments. There are a lot of kind of equipments. Maybe a fume hood, refrigerator, autoclave, sonication, weighing balance. Lot of things are there in terms of laboratory equipment. So never use any laboratory equipment unless you are trained and have been authorized to do so. That means you must know how to handle those equipments. If you know the handling procedure, then you can better work with it and get trained, and that also avoid your injury. If you don't know how to handle it, then it may be difficult. For example, if you're working in lyophilizer, if you know how to handle means how to lock the pressure, how to release the pressure before releasing or deconnecting your sample, uh, so in that case you will lose your compound or you can use your product, and there may be an accident also. So this is very fundamental and important. So protecting your health is the fundamental principle of laboratory safety. If you have an allergy to lab material or suffer from a medical condition which may affect you in laboratory, ensure that your supervisor know it. For example, few people have allergy with acetone or pyridine or DMSO or any sometimes some people have some skin allergy of using of any biomaterials. So we should first of all identify that thing and also try to explain your supervisor that I have these issues with my personally. So you can design your experiment or your coworker can handle the situation as per your health risk. So that is the joint work from both of you, that everybody respect others' health and do the needful for it. Now, another important thing is the waste material. If we have something waste in our lab, how to get it out? That is the biggest question we are facing now, because waste decommissioning or throwing is a major issue. We have biomaterial waste, we have a shark, we have a plastics, we have a glasswares, and we have a chemical waste. So that again comes with the risk assessment. So if we have a waste material, so first of all we have to identify what are the risks involved in that if we thrown out in an open environment. For example, plastic is a waste, I know, and you know what are the risks of plastic. For example, a chemical, if you throw in the tap water, what are the risk? So these kinds of things are already well documented, and people of different interest group already documented their risk and assessment. Keeping those things, the laboratory also are designed in that way in order to avoid the risk while disposing of those waste materials. So part of your risk assessment will be determine how to dispose of waste lab material. Solvent and oil must be segregated into correct wastewater drum. Solvent, it may be chlorinated, it may be a non-chlorinated, it may be a hydrocarbon, it may be a sulfonated. So we have to segregate and dispose as the guidelines. For example, chlorinated solvent never mix with the hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbons can be recycled and reused. But if you mix with the chlorinated, it's very difficult for them to separate it out. So your department will help you determine what to do with the chemical or biological material. And we sometimes put a sticker that okay, this is biological waste, this is chemical waste, this is glassware, and we dispose according to that. Second and foremost important thing is that most of time we in research lab we work off time also because sometimes experiment demand it and there is a need for hour. So if you are working late at night or on weekends when normal working hour are not there, then you must get a permission from your supervisor that okay, I want to work late night or after working hour, and you must perform those experiments which are less hazardous and safe. And in my opinion, if we have working off hours, then we must have at least another co-worker with you who can help you or assist you. Never work alone in any laboratory. Otherwise, it's maybe dangerous. So, so far what I teach you is we have to listen or read the record or instructions before attempting anything to do. Then we have to wear a safety protective equipments which protect us from chemical, heat, material, gases, biological waste, or radiation exposure. And an important thing is that all this in guidelines and with informed consent or informed to your supervisor. So in general, handling chemical with the gloves, okay, but after that we have to clean our hand with the soap or water, and during lab never rub your face with the gloves in your hand, and try to avoid touching here and there while working in the laboratory with having gloves on your hand. So our cloth should be tight, it will not loosen. To roll up loose sleeves, know the location of fire extinguisher, fire blanket, eye wash station, and first aid kit, and keep your work area uncluttered. Take to the lab station what is necessary. Do not dump everything around you. So it is said that wear glasses rather than contact lenses. Never put anything in your mouth during lab. Clean up your lab area. Never harass around and play here and there. So glass safety, chipped or cracked glassware should be not be used. Broken glassware should not be disposed of in a classroom trash can. It should be on a documented trash can. When pouring liquid into a glassware, make sure the container are pouring into it in resting on a table at least a hand feet away from you. Do not place hot glassware in water. Rapid cooling may shatter. So this is the thing that in if you are working with a chemical, so there is a safety is more. Protecting gloves, goggles important. Mixing of two chemical should be as per the description mentioned. Never taste any chemical. So I told you that few chemicals are catches fire when they come into the contact of moisture. So please avoid doing those kind of experiments in lab. Or for example, when you are working with sulfuric acid or nitric acid, never put water onto nitric acid. Do it reverse. Add nitric acid to water slowly. Follow the instruction of all the teachers and your instructions guide supervisor. Now, electrical safety. Lot of time we find that people are using electrical equipment and the wire is on the other hand of the passage and is running all across the lab. That should be avoided because in that case somebody will stuck it and fall off because in lab it may fall off on any equipment or anything else which will have more serious accident. And always think that your hands are dry in the lab because sometimes those flammable liquid, if you use the electrical socket, it will catch fires. Do not poke anything in electrical outlet which is in thermal or electrical conductivity. Unplug cord by pulling the plug and not the cord. Okay. Unplug all the electrical equipment at the end of the lab period. Means whenever you are going home, try to switch off everything because that will save the lab when you are not there. For heating safety, burner and hot plates should be cooled down before you want to transfer it or you want to put another experiment, and make sure that you check it with the thermostat or any other external equipment. All the tongue and protective gloves should be wear while using the hot materials to transfer from here and there. The only type of glassware that may be safe be heated in either Chemex or Pyrex. Okay, so try to use the appropriate glassware when we are using a high temperature experiment and also with the proper heating equipment or outlet. When lighting a burner, wait until the striker is in place where you turn the gas on. The amount of air can be adjusted, but the air supply valve, so try to adjust it and regulate it as you need, and never leave burner or hot plate unattended because that may catches the fire. So uh, I just wants to share some of the video. So now I think you understand the fundamental of laboratory safety. So this is very important in terms of it is very important in terms of the safety and the protection of ourselves also. So this is small video which is by IIT Mumbai tell the people who are working in the chemical lab what are the features they need to save and how to save them. Now, when in doubt means suppose we have something happening and we are not aware of the what to do and how to do, then a question arises to whom we consult. So best way is just to immediately ask your lab manager, a person who is senior to you, can tell you how to handle the situation. Do not guess. Don't guess. Now, the second part is if what is the chemical spill, how to prevent, assessment, reporting, and the cleaning. These are the four factors which are the important for any kind of spill happening. Today we will discuss only the chemical spill. So my this issue is just to give you the insight of the chemical spill, how to explain who is the responsible for the avoiding those spills, and what are the strategies which can follow during, pre, post, and historical events. So create awareness is done by the different regulatory authorities through the institute or laboratories via their managers and the responsible person. They fix the responsibility. Okay, you are the responsible for these guidelines to be followed in your institute. And another thing is that we design the strategy how to handle or how to do the lab work as per the guidelines of the respective authority in order to prevent a spill, in order to prevent the hazards material into our lab, how to report the incidents happen, and how to clean up, and how we are going to manage in future to avoid repetition of that spill. So the hazardous waste operation emergency response gives us training and procedures mandatory for reporting of those chemical spills, and we termed as hazmat accidents. So hazmat spill is one where there is an immediate danger to health and life. I already explained you. Chemicals accidents happens and their results comes immediately. Biological accidents happens, their results comes late. So there are numerous guidelines are already well documented. We are not going to those guidelines because this is very extensive guidelines and this is the scope of this work. So we discussed the responsibilities. So it's our responsibilities to obey those regulations and as much as we can understand those regulatory aspects. So being as a researcher, we are responsible for to ensure the spills should be reported, documented, and cleaned up in a timely manner. And whether it was done by your super or whatever, who is the guy who is responsible for the cleaning your laboratory, he must also be have well trained, and we it's our responsibility to get them informed about the risk associated with that cleanness. If there is a major hazmat, then we will respond to our next authority or you can say the hazmat team, which comes with the core responsible person and equipments to get clean and do the reporting, or you can say they can document it to the next level. So spill less than 4 liter of material are comfortability to clean up, but higher is very difficult. So we have to assess the hazmat volume before start cleaning. Assess the hazards, wear the appropriate PPE, and if you are unsure about the hazard of a spill or need assistance with PPE, get the safety officer called. Potential hazards, I would say more than 4 liter, smaller spill of material, low lethal dose, carcinogenity, flammability of the liquid, and compound of unknown toxicity are first assessed. In that respect, the cleanliness drive will follow. Preventing, how we prevent a spill, this is very simple. Cleanness, clarity, and work culture can improve the accidents of spills. So eliminate clutters, no proper work practice for biological chemical material use. Use unbreakable secondary containers. Store chemicals properly or biochemicals properly. Dispose of waste and excess chemical in a timely manner. What is the preparation for those? What are the physical and toxicological properties of biological and chemical material use? Same thing. You should first know what kind of material you are using and what are the associated risks and benefits assessments are there. What is the worst thing that happen if you drop or spill a bottle of each chemical you use? Inconvenience, skin burn. First of all, if there is spill happens, it causes inconvenience to you and your lab worker. If it falls on your skin, there is a burning or damage to the extra facial superficial of the skin. It may cause fire or it may cause chemical exposure to your body that may lead to some major accident. So hazards may be toxic, flammable, it may be caustic, it may be reactive and explosive, or radioactive material, or biological matter, or others. So who are the expert on the hazard measure in your person? Know the property of biochemical or chemically used before you handle. That is the primary thing. Handle handling of worst scenario if happens, how you are going to react with the spill or any mishappening, and what are the procedures to clean up. This is the fundamental of those. Toxic material, again the assessing the risk, what are route of exposure, whether it's inhale, it goes through eyes or it perforated through the skin, what are the acute toxin in it, whether it's materially corrosive, irritant, or allergic. Those are all these things comes or documented in its MSDS material safety data sheet. So before start of anything, we must read it carefully. Example of metal with a high level of acute toxicity: acrolein, diazomethane, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen fluoride gas, biological toxin, tetrodotoxins, snake worms, I know, osmium tetroxide, beta mercaptothione, thionol. Those are the few things which are very toxic. So we should avoid using those things. Very common chemicals, for example, acetone, acetonitrile, methanol, methyl acid, we are frequently using. But these are also very toxic. Specifically, acetone, acetonitrile, methanol. Methanol, you know very well, is very toxic. And people are using a lot of time in labs, and it's highly volatile also. And if we are using methanol for prolonged time without having goggles in your eyes, that will also seriously affect your eyes vision in long term. Flammable hazardous means the chemical which causes fire, so we should avoid using those flammable chemicals. So flammable chemicals means which have the flash point where it can convert into a vapors very easily. Acetone, acetonitrile, methanol, ether are the best example. They are flammable and they catches fire very fastly. So we should avoid this one in precaution. Do not use close by electrical equipments which can catch fire. So these will get fire. Caustic chemicals, for example, HCl, NaOH, phenol, toluene, those are the caustic which they when they come into contact with the skin, they start itching or irritating. They cause severe skin burns. If they get into the eyes, they will permanently damage your eyes also. So please try to handle in a cautious. So you can get this causes list from ucl.edu, the 27-page list for different chemicals or biochemicals which you are using in laboratory have the carcinogenic properties. So thing is that if we have the fire attached, or you can say we have an accident, so then another thing is how to get it the first aid. So doing the first aid is very important. Burn, immediately flush with water until burning session is lessened. If your cuts, bruises, then do not touch an open wound without safety goggles. Pressing directly on minor cuts will stop bleeding in a few minutes. Apply cold compress to bruises the reduce swelling. Injury, for example, fainting. Provide fresh air and have the person recline so that their head is lower than the rest of the body. Eye injury. Flush eyes immediately with plenty of water for several minutes. If a foreign object is lodged in the eye, do not allow eye to be rubbed. Poisoning, for example, you somehow can mistakenly you swallow it anything which is poisonous. Find out what substance was responsible for that and alert the concerned person immediately for medical suggestion, and clinician can do the rest of the work how to mitigate that. A spill on the skin, flush with large quantity of water. For acid spill, for example, apply baking soda solution. For base spill, apply vinegar or boric acid. That will act as a normalizing the acid over the skin or base over the skin. Electrical shock. Shut off the electric at the source, remove wire with the rubber gloves, and alert your supervisor. So this is all for today class, and maybe tomorrow we will uh, come with more. What are the good laboratory practices are there in order to avoid those accidents, and what are the principle for the good laboratory practice? So uh, I think I have one more presentation tomorrow, so I will do it tomorrow at same time. So if you have any question, then please ask me.